I didn't speak any. Yeah, I'm going to talk loud. Could Jeffrey Wright come up here and Benicio del Toro? Couldn't have done it without you boys.
Trip, man.
I'm curious, when was the last time each of you saw that on a big screen?
When did you see it, Jeffrey?
I saw it, I think, well, I don't know, with my kids. Maybe, it's been a while. 12 years ago, something like that, 10 years ago. I think I've seen it since then. That's a lot. It took me back to that place when we made it, but also it took me back to that New York. Yeah. That was a trip. It's good.
When's the last time you saw Benny?
Big screen, 96. But yeah, I was really pulled in. I felt sad, you know, of the story, you know. And when I saw it, I've changed, I guess, too. But when I first saw it, I didn't see it as, you know, your work is fantastic, you know. But it's like this, it was a little sad, you know.
A little.
I mean, it's interesting because it's a period piece, but it's a very fresh period piece. The time is only like 6-7 years out, right, from the events that are depicted, at least towards the end there. How does it hit a lot? Well, from, I guess, when you made it, you weren't dealing with a period in history very far back. You were dealing with
Right,
a
he
really
died in
recent.
1988 on August 12th, and then we made the movie in 95. Not because we wanted to wait, but it took a while to get it together. But Jeffrey was saying something to me when we were sitting in there. He just said to me, you could say it again if you wanted to, sitting together now, looking at it.
Looking at it now, I mean, I see it with, well, no, just the experience of making that film. I guess being with you guys tonight and watching it, I was remembering, you know, what that was like. For example, like when we were driving in the Jeep at the end, and there was a kind of, you know, mischievousness and joy and all of this stuff. And it just brought me back. I had an appreciation as a sidebar just for what we do as when we make films. We capture these moments, and I was reliving those moments, not the moments, yes, the moments of the story, but the moments of creating it, you know? And there's kind of an overlap in that way, and I think Julian, you kind of represent this in terms of the way you work, you know, working in film, working in painting, but there's a celebration of that, of art, of creating, that the film in and of itself does through this celebration of this man's life. And ultimately, that's what it is. It's a remembrance of his life. And what I'm so pleased about that we came together to do this is that we introduced him, his story, to people beyond the art world who did not know him, right? And you know, it's our film, it's our version of the story,
Right.
but it has brought people to understand him, and more importantly, to see and appreciate his work in a way that's been pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think that's true. And Benicio, you were saying something like that earlier to me.
Yeah, I was saying, like, you know, when I go to museums, I see Van Gogh, and I see Warhol, and I see Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I think this movie helped, you know, speed his recognition, because his work was fantastic. But the movie, I think, brought it, like Jeffrey was saying, it brought it to a generation and put it there and people to learn about it. And I think it did help his publicity.
Well, the trajectory, but the thing is what it does, and what it did do, beyond what it did for Jean-Michel, it actually made people feel like it's possible to do that. I can't tell you how many people came up to me over the years and said, you know, I moved to New York because I saw that movie. Now maybe New York doesn't look like it. What, darling?
Just hold it a little closer.
Talking to your mic.
Sure, okay, I'm talking to my mic.
Not mine, your mic.
Okay, I'm talking to my mic. It's my pleasure. It actually made a case for making art.
Well, you were asking me what I said, specifically,
Yes,
kind of,
exactly, yes.
but I was saying that the film is really, I hadn't appreciated, I guess, the ways in which the film tells his story through his actions and through what he does. And he communicates more so through his painting than any other aspect of the performance.
So we had a lot of, I don't even know if it was conversations about it, but I think that there was we had to go through I was seeing something that I wanted Jeffrey to do, but I knew that Jeffrey could do. I think Jeffrey, as a man at the time, felt like he needed to win his own, in the same way that Jean-Michel, actually, he did make pee-pee in my hallway. He made pee-pee, Jeffrey didn't, but Jean-Michel did. The thing is, he was at my studio and he made a drawing, portrait of me, and he gave it to me. But I think he felt like he overextended himself. And when he went outside, on the way out, he relieved himself, and he did that. And I understood that he needed to claim back his territory in a way. So I think that this kind of arm wrestling between, say, an older brother and a younger brother, or me being in a position where he thought, well, you know, why should this guy even be able to help me? You know, why should I? There was this, and I think Jeffrey felt that that was something that was kind of essential. But what I think that maybe Jeffrey didn't understand at the time was what I wanted to do, and what I said to Jeffrey, I said, if we lose the battle, we win the war. And I think when I see Jeffrey's performance and I see how you know, Truffaut's movie is called 400 Blows. I thought we could have called this movie 800 Blows. Because I think he took it, and in taking that, you kind of feel for him, and I think that that's what I wanted. But that's hard to convey that to somebody when they're going through that, and what actors have to do in order to, they're not acting. They're not acting, they are occupying a moment, and that's their life. They're not gonna get another chance to sort of relive their life. That's it, and you're getting it, it just happens to be recorded. And so, we hadn't talked in a very long time, Jeffrey and I, Benicio and I do, but, and then Jeffrey made this film, American Fiction. And so Roger Durling of Santa Barbara said, would you like to make a video and say something to Jeffrey? And I said, yeah, I would like to do that, and I did. And Jeffrey actually said to me that he felt like American Fiction was a kind of a continuation of this film in a way. I mean, there's a line in this movie that where René Ricard says to Jean-Michel, you know, there's never been a black artist in art history that's been considered really important. And so Jeffrey gets to say to him, are you a writer or a white writer? And I think that that is, I think we needed to clarify that a long time ago. I think people are still trying to clarify that.
Oh, yes.
And that that notion of identity, and it's, it's not a new topic.
Yeah, and it's very much, what you touch on in the film as well is this idea of the artist as free, and what that freedom means for someone like Jean-Michel Basquiat, or like the character that featured in American Fiction. There's a similar through line. I think ultimately, the hurdles, the challenges, the tensions are specific in some ways, because Jean-Michel Basquiat is an artist he's a scion of Picasso and Twombly and Warhol, but he's telling these stories from a very specific point of view. He's a young black man. His music is the music of the genius of the undiscovered genius of the Mississippi Delta.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls from these resources that are from a very specific point of view. And I think, you see it in the references, the cultural heroes that he refers to, Miles Davis, Ali, Parker. You see in his language is something very specific. And so, his being understood by the world that he's communicating to, there are different levels of challenges specific to that. And I think what's wonderful though, more to your point, Benicio, too, about his placement now and how the film has helped that, is that all of these cultural heroes, these massive, giant heroes that he celebrated in his work, he's now become, he's now in the same group. He's one of them now. He's a bad motherfucker, man.
And I have to add that the movie doesn't pull any punches. I mean, it's like it's relentless in that way, and your work, Jeffrey, is fantastic. Fantastic. I'm really, really proud of the movie because it really travels in time, and it doesn't lose the strength. It's deeper for me watching it today, and I don't think it's the black and white. And I think it's just heavier, and it's contemporary still.
I think there's an honesty too to the story, and you're talking about the journey that we went on.
Right.
I think that was reflective of, in some ways, the relationship that you had with him too. So we weren't hiding anything, and I think it reflects on the screen that there's something there that's genuine, that we were able to do together. And I was looking as well at what you were doing cinematically too, in a way that I didn't, that I hadn't appreciated fully before. I think it's a genuine thing, man, and I think we told a story. It's subjective like everything else, that we do is, but we told a story. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I think one thing that is, I think I'm supposed to be a white man.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be
Don't get very well.
I'm a white man that told the story of a black man, and I mean, from a white man's point of perspective, but
there's the Jewishness of it as
Well,
well.
there's-
There's an intersection there that we don't always fully celebrate. but-
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, and I think that, for example, when Dana Schutz made a painting of Emmett Till, and people were criticizing her as if she was like a white person making a painting about a black person's tragedy. We're all pink inside. That's what my daughter Lola says, and we all are pink inside. And the fact is that empathy is empathy, and we all need a lot more of it on this planet. But the fact is that what we did together, and the way what's a real luxury is that was in 1995. It's 2002. 24 now, so how many years ago was that?
29,
What?
almost 30 years.
3.
There's nothing great about getting old except you get more perspective. And if you make a good work of art, the longer it sustains itself, and I'm thinking about painting right now. I mean, this just happened. I never thought this was a great movie. I never thought I made a great movie. I just thought I knew my topic. I was the guy that bought the caviar for Jean-Michel. And a lot of that stuff that happened that was stuff that we did together. But I think one of the problems with filmmaking is people don't know their topics. Maybe they're people that know how to direct a movie or whatever, they don't know what the fuck they're making a movie about. But I think I actually did know what I was making a movie about then. Maybe I know more about it now than I did then. But we were stumbling along the truth. And we were finding it as we were living through it, because I never made a movie before. I think it was your first film.
First lead, yeah.
Yeah, first lead in a movie. And it's funny because Joanna Ray did not know that Jean-Michel was black, the person that was doing the casting. She knew he was half Puerto Rican and showed me a guy on a thing called The Drug Wars, and he was sitting at a table. His name was Benicio del Toro. He was sitting at a table. He wasn't saying a goddamn word, and everybody else in that room disappeared. I said, that's the right guy, he's just the wrong color, but I definitely want to meet him because he's got to be in this movie.
Following up on
Well, you asked me.
I just sat front row and I watched Jeffrey take the ball through.
You asked me to come down. I got a call from Georgianne Walken
Right,
saying,
Chris's wife.
yeah, because a friend of mine had called me. It was actually the day that I decided to leave Angels in America. We were doing that. We were doing that for about a year and a half, and 3 of us said we're gonna move on now. And I put in my letter of resignation, and I came home that very day from the theater, and there was a voice message from my friend Randy Salvatore, who's working at April Friday. He said, "Hey Jeffrey, I'm helping this woman. She's casting, she's trying to find someone to play Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I thought of you. Give me a call. Are you interested?" And I said immediately, that's the next thing I'm going to do. It was the same day that I left Angels. And then I got a call to come down and do the reading, but you wanted me to read the role of Benny. And there was somebody else reading Basquiat. And I said, I don't want to come down there. And she said, yeah, come on. I said, all right. So I went to Benny's role as I would read Basquiat.
Who was the other guy?
It was Jean-Claude, who played Schengen.
No.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
No.
I swear to God. I can tell you what happened.
And then you called, and then I came down and read Benny, and we did a table read, and I read as I would play Basquiat, and I got a call from you about a couple hours later saying, "Would you come down and talk? Let's talk a little bit more about this."
Well, I don't remember that at all. I remember that, first of all, the reason why I wanted you to play Jean-Michel, when I heard your voice, I knew that when I heard you speak, and I heard your voice, I knew that you had his voice and you could have the same voice, and your voice is what brought me in to this thing at first. Jean-Claude came into this thing later. We had another experience where you came, it was Marcia Gay Harden, check this out, Marcia Gay Harden, Steve Buscemi was reading Rene Ricard's stuff. Okay?
So I wasn't there were a lot of iterations. Yeah.
You came in and read that day, and you had your hat on backwards. You went to Barbados or something because you thought you needed to be more tan. And you sat at the end of the table, chewing gum, and read that thing. And I said, if that's my fucking script, my script sucks. You don't remember that? I said we went out.
But that was later. That was later. Because we did it. That was later. That was before we were about to shoot. Because we went through this whole iteration. What was
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I do
Okay.
remember that. 'Cause I wasn't quite ready. I wasn't quite ready yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but we grew up a lot since then. And Jeffrey's made some incredible. Well, you know, another thing that happens with the movies that I make, all the people that star in my films end up being the bad guy in the James Bond movies. Isn't that weird? I mean, Javier
I
Bardem.
went backwards though.
Yeah, I know you were in
I
one
went
before.
backwards.
You were in one before, but not as the star. Bad guy, part bad guy, right? But Matt, yeah, please.
Let's do a couple audience questions.
It's a story of an artist, but it's also a story of drug addiction. And it sort of reminds me this time, it's very tragic, of Naked, Mike Lee's Naked, where you've got this genius guy but with this destructive thing. You had Dennis Hopper and David Bowie, and they both recovered from drug addiction. Did they have anything to give you about the story of the drug addict?
So in case anybody in the back didn't hear, it's a question about, it's a story of an artist, but also a story of somebody who's struggling with addiction. You had people in the cast who struggled themselves. Did they bring?
He was talking about Mike Lee's movie Naked.
No, I mean, I found that.
And about drug addiction, and then mentioned David and Dennis. No.
Okay.
I mean, no. Dennis was one of my closest friends, but we never talked about drug addiction in terms of that, but I knew Jean-Michel really well, and so lots of times one thing that happens when you have a problem like that, you don't show up. You make plans with people and you just don't show up, or you show up quite late, and you have a different sense of time. And I think I just remembered a lot about those different events that happened, and you know, whatever I knew about Jean-Michel personally, I took that from real life or the life that I knew, rather than from hearsay or from somebody else's relationship with that.
We have time for a couple more, like all the way in the back.
Question, after all these years, looking back, did you leave anything on the editing floor, or would you have done anything different, having looked at it now?
There was one scene that I wanted to do, but we didn't have the money for it. And it was when, it was in the script at one time, when basically, Jean-Michel used to go and visit Bruno Bischofberger in Switzerland. I wanted to go to Switzerland, because he goes there and he opens a refrigerator door, and he looks into the refrigerator while he's stoned, and he sees in the refrigerator the Alps. So he ends up going into the refrigerator, is in the snow, and then he's wandering around in Appenzell, and these guys are yodeling, and he was the only black man in Appenzell also, and he was with Bruno Bischofberger, who loved him, and these guys were yodeling for him and whatever. And then there was a guy who was a coffin maker. He carved a coffin, and there's a thing called the Cresta Run in San Moritz. It's a skeleton sled, and it goes down a track like a bobsled. Well, I wanted Jeffrey to go into the coffin and ride this coffin down the Cresta Run and come out through the doors of his psychiatrist's office and get up, dust himself off, take the snow off himself, and have that line where he's saying to Andy, you know, they when I clean up, they say my art's dead, and you know, when he has that conversation about I'm not on drugs, but you know, so that whole thing. So that's something that I wanted to do, because I saw Jeffrey shaking like this with his face in the coffin going down that track, but we didn't shoot that.
I think we shot that metaphorically.
We got time for one last question, so right there in the center, please.
You as a painter and a filmmaker have done 2 films about artists who had a tragic ending.
Which two?
Well, Van Gogh and this one.
What about Ronaldo Arenas?
But my
Pardon?
question is, what did you learn about yourself and about art through this experience?
What did I learn about art and myself through this experience?
Yes.
Well, I would say, I don't know if I learned anything. I don't think there's any separation between art or my art and my life. I never made a movie to make money. I don't know that I ever made any money making a movie either. But the point is not to make money. It's not a job. It's a practice, and there's something that you want to express, and you need materials. It's a medium that you work with, whether you're painting or whether you're working with other people, and you're communicating something. And through that, whether you're communicating with an editor or you're communicating with a composer, you find in these other people the essence of life, really, the people that you want to spend your time with. I mean, that the way that you want to live. It's you know, I don't need to take a vacation. Maybe lawyers take vacations, but artists, I mean, they can follow whatever, but it's not a job. So did I learn that it's not a job? Nobody asked me to do any of these things. Nobody asked somebody to make a painting either. I don't know if it's a good answer or not. Does anybody else have a question for me that might clarify that, where I could answer it even more? You?
This is not a question about any of that, though.
Okay.
Stylistically in the film, like the surfing shots and a lot of the shots of like whatever's going on in the TV. First of all, I've seen this movie so many times, and
You
those
want to
things.
take the microphone so people can.
I'll repeat the question, it's okay. Go ahead.
The mic.
Those things and the score, the soundtrack, make it a movie that like I can see again and again. I've seen it probably since I was like 13, and now I'm like 33. So I've probably seen it like 10 times. And the score and some of the stylistic choices of like the surfers in the sky,
Right.
and then especially at the end, after the credits were done, and then that shot of the surfer going like that, and then cutting to it again and again. Yeah, I just wanted you to like talk about that. I have no specific question about that, but
Now I'm glad you said, I think, so, some people make a movie, and you can see it, and there's the story, you watch it, you know what it is, you understand it at the end, and you never have to see it again. You know what the story, they told it to you, whatever, and you don't need, why look at it again? Or there's a painting that you can look at and you see it and you saw it, yes, I saw it, okay, and you don't need to look at it again. But there are other things that each time you see it, it becomes another kind of mirror for yourself. In the same way that Lou Reed's song said, you know, I'll be your mirror. I think that I see art as a utilitarian thing that has a function. So, you know, when they say the arts and leisure section in the New York Times, what does art and leisure have to do with each other? But there's something about it that if you believe I mean, if this is what you want to do with your life, you don't want that to be compromised. We don't do it for the money. If somebody was gonna pay me, I just finished a movie, and I have no idea what we'll sell it for, ultimately, but if, say, just somebody offered me $27 million for the movie that we made, and they say, but I want you to change this, I want you to change that, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Or they would give me $17 million, which is whatever the hell it cost, then what would I do? I wouldn't change a fucking thing, and I'd take less money. And, but the point is not that I want to be stupid or I have no respect for money, the point is, why do it? I mean, in Arthur Miller in The Crucible, right? He says, it's my name. All you have is your name and your word. And the reason why I mean, you love the people that you work with. One of the reasons why I think actors work with me, I think Benicio could tell you that, or Jeffrey, I don't know. I don't let people slip through the cracks. They trust me, I trust them, so there's a real love affair. That's it. It's not a love affair, it's love. It's like you go to Vietnam together, you live through it, and you get back, and that's it. And that's a real bond. So it's not a business. And I guess that, did I learn anything in the process of that? I don't know. Anybody else? Or
No, I'm afraid we're about out of time. It's
well,
very
this
quick.
woman looks like just making-
Very quick.
Three sisters do a lot to promote his artwork, and they rented a whole warehouse
Yeah, I've seen
in
it.
Chelsea,
Right.
and they set up rooms from him growing up, and his studio, and they had the refrigerator door there. What was their reaction to your movie, I guess, then and now?
This is a question about Basquiat's sisters
Yeah,
who supported his art so much.
But
Were they involved? Did
Yeah,
they
what did
react to
they-
the movie? Did
Were
they?
they pleased with the movie?
Well, I think they were kids. I mean, and also, I think so. I never got any complaints. I mean, I knew his dad, but we did not have permission to make the paintings, but he also didn't sue me for making the paintings. I mean, I painted the paintings with Greg Bogan, who was the painter. He's here with me now, and Jeffrey painted some of them. I mean,
I
we
did my own stunts.
helped him a little.
No.
But it's very, very, very different. His father, it was very competitive with Jean-Michel, and it wasn't, so, and there's a lot of things like prints that got made after he was dead, or versions of this. I mean, people monetize this thing. That's not what I'm interested in. So, but I am interested in walking up to something and seeing the way that it's made. And all art, from whenever it's made, brings you into its present. And the last time you see it is the first time. So if you say something, you look at something, yeah, I saw that already. Well, okay, then maybe you didn't see it. I once had a painting that Eddie de Wilde, who was a director of the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, saw my show at Mary Boone's Gallery a million years ago. He's dead now. And then I had this painting in my house, and he walked in and he looked at this painting. It was about 9 by 19 feet, and he said, he really, really liked it. I said, you've seen it before. He said, no, I didn't. And I said, I guess you didn't. So, anyway, thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for being here. And thank you for showing us something we've never seen before.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you something, Jeffrey, you know, you said to me when, you know, you felt like you were seeing it for the first time sitting next to me just now, I felt the same way. And not only this, I saw the movie in Sag Harbor, actually, because there was a premiere. Julie Daniolo runs the Sag Harbor Theater there. And so I'd seen it, is it 2 weeks ago? And it is different in black and white also. It is more like a Shirley Clark film, and you don't get distracted by the paintings. You see them, that's why I put them at the end, where you could see them in color, and you could see what it looked like. But my son, Shooter, who's 11 years old, was sitting in the audience, and people were asking questions. He raised his hand and said, yes. And he said, how do you make a movie so emotional? Nobody ought to ask any more questions after that. Out of the mouths of babes, but you know, you do it with the best you can, I guess, and you either have it or you don't. Like Tarkovsky said, there's only talent and mediocrity. It's not a judgment, it's just a reality.
Or you know, you talked about the love that if you work together on something. For me, I mean, I felt deeply in love with him, you know, and tried to do him justice. And his story is not, you know, there's pain in his story.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. And I think what, you know, you provided the canvas, you know, that allowed me to try to raise a bit of his spirit.
And the thing is, that didn't end there.
Yeah.
He continued inside of you and is a part of you, because it's part of you that was part, and there's no separation between that. And somehow, you know, you maybe become all of the roles that you're in, some more deeply than other ones, but I'd say that since it was such an early, an important early work of yours, I think that it had a huge effect on your life.
Well, it's part of the reason, or large reason, part of the reason that I wanted to tell his story, because I knew something about it from my own perspective.
Of course.
And I came here, you know, having watched, from a cinematic perspective, having watched films, Midnight Cowboy, and, you know, whatever, and, you know, Scorsese's films, and that led me to want to come to New York, to find that place where I ended up in the East Village, to find, you know, that energy and what you celebrate here, the city that was then, and to find the same things that he was looking for, a type of creative freedom, you know, and so yeah, I knew a little
You
bit.
found it, buddy.
And I hope we celebrated it, but did it out of love, in this instance, out of love for him. Yeah, and I hope it's conveyed.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it there, but I want to thank, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it there. But I want to thank Julian and Jeffrey and Benicio so much for being here.